People who have cheated on their partner, what was the reason? I think my husband kind of did that long before me. I was always very weary of cheaters. I was definitely of the mindset, a cheater will always cheat if nothing else when it gets hard. I met my husband and we were friends for a while before we ever casually hooked up, then eventually dated. At some point when we got comfortable, long before we were married, we got into heavier topics and he told me he had cheated one time when he was in a 3-year relationship. It was essentially revenge cheating. They had both have a super fucked up home life. I got him into therapy for that, which he's been in for years now, and they decided enough was enough and ran away together to the other side of the country. But she, and he too, had a lot of issues to unpack, and I think with her probably some bipolar issues. Basically he found messages that she had been messaging multiple guys and cheated on him with at least one of them in their apartment. So he got super drunk at a bar and invited a girl back to their place knowing she would find him and her. He was very upfront about it. He explained how toxic their relationship had been, and how drunkenly and seemed like it just revenge, but that honestly it just sucked overall. He didn't know the girl at all, it was obviously a huge scene, it didn't make him feel better, and it caused them both to have to move out suddenly where in hindsight he could have just looked for a new place while breaking up and moving out. Despite his honesty I was still wary for a long time. And we did have an issue once where I caught him looking through my phone because that was how he caught her. TBH, we almost broke up. If I was an outlooker at the time I would have told myself to break up with him because no matter the reasons, it wasn't okay for him to do that when I had never ever done anything to give him a reason to think I would cheat. And because personally I'm not the type to cheat. Sex has always been something I only want from the person I love. I was never one for even one-night stands. Actually my husband was the only casual fling I'd ever had, and the only reason that happened was because we were both in a period of heavy drinking and feeling lonely. But over time we realized we were similar people with similar values. I think me and my husband's relationship is one of very few examples where people pick themselves up and work their shit out and just happen to be with someone who is the right person for them, but where both parties were actually willing to do the work to better themselves for each other, with each other. He went to rehab and I quit drinking. We honestly went through a toxic phase that I would not have recommended either party to stay through. We did come out the other side healthier people and basically realized that we actually still really liked each other and were able to get over toxic things we had said when drinking. We've now been married 5 years, are not alcoholics but can actually drink like occasionally in healthy ways without drinking too much or too often, have a young child and are trying for another. But I don't like to use my marriage of an example to stick it out and make it work. We were just honestly extremely lucky to have met each other and be able to rise from toxicity to better ourselves and become adults. I would say 99% of relationships that look like ours, with our backgrounds, would never go that way. And if I saw someone in his or my position at the beginning or middle of our early relationship, I would still advise them to leave and work on themselves and then find a partner after. The simple version, I was affection and attention starved in a 20-year relationship, it was not going to change, it had been going on for years. I had an inadvertent emotional affair, I got caught. I never touched the girl. Cannot say it would not have happened eventually, I was that unhappy. By the time friendly conversation with the girl at the neighborhood corner store turned to emotional support between two unhappy people, and I exchanged numbers, I knew I was cheating. The attention felt so good after so many years in a relationship that had not provided it. There are many details, none justify what I did. I blew up an unhappy relationship that had no hope of changing, for some conversation that had started to border on the if I was not with her talk. I never cheated on a woman in my life before this, but it felt good to be desired. I was caught before I had any further chance to be tested how bad the cheating would be. We tried to heal after I was caught. It did not work, I and my girl had waited too long to try and care anymore. It's been 2 years now, I miss them dearly. Everyone hates me now. I wish my ex had never signed up for Facebook in 2008. It is the true point it all started to go bad for us. 9 years later we were through. Tried for 4 more years, it was too far gone, we didn't love each other anymore. Judge me, you have no idea what will make a man who never in his life believed in or thought he would cheat do what I did. You don't have enough details. How did you get back at your boyfriend/girlfriend for cheating? I don't want sappy stories like, I ripped his shirts, or, I smashed all her makeup. So recently I found out that my ex had a flirtatious relationship at work with one of her managers at a restaurant she works at. This involved sexual dirty talking while on the shift, sexual compliments and photo sharing and plans to hang out. I found out and told her not to text the other guy again and block him. Well, something told me to check her phone again, and it didn't take less a full day for her to respond back to his texts on iMessage, thus continuing the contact of cheating on me. What's worst is how she described getting caught by me to be hilarious, funny, and that she'll reach out to this guy when we're done. She made me sound like a doormat, a joke, an option, as if everything we had was a plaything for her to play with. Feeling emasculated, embarrassed, and surprised she could ever talk about me like this to another man, I posted her incriminating screenshots to her social media feeds, Instagram and Snapchat stories since I had access to the accounts, and sent those screenshots to the guy she was cheating on me with and her boss at work since she was doing it with another manager at the restaurant. I also sent them to her mother as she was texting this guy the whole week I was helping her mother move to her new home. The guy responded immediately and her boss and mother has yet to respond. She later called me back to apologize about the ordeal, but the damage was already done and I broke the news to her about what I did and to screw her. I think I went overboard as this is something I never done. Take revenge on someone by screwing them over. Update: I've seen that her boss has looked at the message I sent her of my ex cheating at work on the job with another restaurant manager. The boss hasn't replied yet, but she definitely knows now. Time will tell if she'll continue to be working there. Update 2. Apparently she still has her job from the restaurant, and she's doing damage control from the social media posts. Update 3. She replied back to me letting me know the developments I about posted learning before and that only a person like me would care to see that happen. The conversation turned in a really ugly name-calling match. The damage has already been done, I'm being spiteful and I'm done talking with her. I'm going to desperately seek therapy and work on myself for the better. I didn't expect this to blow up, but I appreciate the advice all around. She never wanted me or deserved it all. Update 4. I contacted the owner and showed him pictures of what happened. He legally said he can't get involved. 4 situations that happened outside the restaurant. The screenshots clearly show her and the manager sexually flirting during the workday on the hour. I don't think he really wants to get involved. We live in an at-will employment state, meaning the employer can fire you for any reason other than an illegal one. So as uncomfortable as it is for her, the owner, GM, the manager she cheated with, unfortunately she'll keep her job, but boy, it'll be uncomfortable working there. Final update: the guy she managed to cheat on me with is a single father co-parenting a son with another woman. I found out who the woman was and showed her all the screenshots. Unfortunately she saw them texting each other for well over a year ago, and that she told him to not text her anymore because she doesn't want him hanging out with anyone that doesn't like the mother of their son. My ex-girlfriend knew her and was extremely rude and snobbish with her. They're not together anymore, so she didn't know the exact lengths of their relationship, however she knew that texted each other a lot. To no surprise, their relationship also ended because he was also cheating on her at the same restaurant with another woman that worked there while their son was extremely young. For all the talk about how my ex-GF didn't want to be a single mother and how she despised her father for cheating on her mother while she was pregnant, she sure loved playing the role as the other woman. I once dated a guy. He was my first. I loved him madly and he turned out to be a manipulator. He said he'd had a fight with his parents and asked to stay with me. I live alone. Mortgage, utilities, food, everything's on me. He lived for free, paid nothing, just used me. Then the cheating started. He went out with other women, gave them flowers, and I kept forgiving him, because I loved him. But at some point everything broke. He started raising his hand at me. Not just a single slap, he beat me. I walked around bruised and tried not to show how terrified I was. For a long time I was afraid to let anyone into my life at all. 5 months passed. I had only just begun to breathe again, then he calls. Says he's sorry and invites me to his wedding. Asks me to behave normally. I went. In a red dress, even though the dress code was nude, with a bouquet of fake dead flowers and an envelope. Inside were proof of everything: the beatings, the affairs, the messages. And not only that. I even had dirt on his fiancée. He had cheated on her too. I handed everything to his fiancée. They never got married. Such a scandal erupted that friends later told me how everything fell apart. But I didn't stop there. I told an acquaintance who deals with illegal matters. I found out my ex was illegally smuggling people across the border. Now he has not only debts but real legal trouble. He faces potential jail time. So yes, I came out of it broken, but I didn't give up. And I got back everything he deserved.
Were you able to forget your first love? I'm certain my brain is not capable of forgetting something that was so momentous and life-changing. And I think it's more than okay to have lingering warm feelings towards someone who loved you in X, Y, and Z ways. In my case, someone who loved me enough to write songs about me, and who loved exactly who I was so much that he respected my autonomy at a very high level. It impacted me and the ways I give and receive love. I literally could not love my husband the way that I do if not for that experience. And that experience was damn near 20 years ago. Forget? Never. Move on. Definitely. You get to keep all of those memories and use them to refine your tastes and keep your standards high. If you need help with moving on, I'd honestly Google it. There may be great resources, books, podcasts, or you may want to turn to a therapist to help you alter repeated thought patterns. I am 50 going on 51. I am still friends with a high school boyfriend who I went out with for 3 months. He has 2 kids and a marriage that is ending, so I am there for him in his low time. We hadn't seen each other for 10 years before recently reconnecting, but he has kids, and any friends who have kids, I don't see them as kids take up a lot of time and energy. My other high school boyfriend I dated from junior of high school all the way through college into maybe a year or 2 after college. We got along well. I don't remember ever really fighting with him. When we broke up, I would still travel to see him. But then I realized I was putting way more into this than he was. He would never travel to see me, and I'm traveling an hour each way, which in American terms is not that far. So we just kind of drifted apart. I don't really ever think about him, and I actually feel mad about the fact that we have no way of keeping in touch. I even tried to friend him on Facebook, and he declined it. Another one of our friends, who is a female, kept trying to get me to break up with him. And I think she tried to get him to break up with me on his end as well. Last I heard, she asked him out. I have no idea if they got together. I did at one point see him with a picture with a kid with dark hair like she had, so I have no idea what happened. But I do believe that she made up a lot of lies about me talking about him. So that's probably why we aren't in touch. But I do feel mad that he would ever believe any of those things. But I do think back to all my boyfriends, except for the one that stalked me. But the rest of them, even the ones I fought with a lot, I don't have any bad feelings about them. But do I yearn to date them again? No, absolutely not, because we didn't work out. So I'm not sure what age you are, but as you go through life and have more relationships, you can realize that sometimes people in your life for a short time, and that's okay. It's not bad. It's not that life would have been perfect if they were still in your life and you were still dating. They added to your life for that period of time, and you can cherish that, and you can meet new people that will add to your life and cherish them more. Here it is. It was winter time during my 8th grade. Few girls decided they wanted to make this Christmas special rather than usual celebrations we had in school. They wanted everyone to put their names on a bit of paper, fill a basket with those scribbled names. We had to randomly pick a name whom we have to anonymously give a gift. I really hoped I won't get a girl. I, being shy early teenager, was really nervous to buy a gift for a girl. Unfortunately, it was a girl. Damn, this was a popular girl. As always, I tried to avoid that and find a way out of playing Secret Santa. Sadly, again, teacher made it compulsory for everyone to participate. I figured out I wasn't the only one under this dilemma. There were some guys like me. Gladly, some wanted to be Santa to their crush. Well, I helped those desperate lovers. I was kid who used to do lot of favors. People had a problem? I would sort them out. Want your crush's number? I got your back. I knew how strange everybody was, especially me. I exchanged my girl with their, not the girls of course, just their names. I sorted out everything and finally got some guy's name. Now I won't have to tell anyone at home that I have to buy a present for a girl. It was around Christmas. Vacations were about to start. I kept the gift safely in the guy's bag. I already got my gift few days back. I don't even remember what the gift was. I just remember walking down the corridor and entering the classroom and being welcomed by warm smile. That was fucking beautiful. Some guy brought a really nice present for the girl I was originally Santa to. Most of the girls were surrounding her while she was hugging her gift that she just unwrapped. Everybody assumed I gifted her that wonderful thing she could not get away from. Maybe everyone thought I was that mysterious Santa because I had asked a lot of kids to exchange names with. But I knew I wasn't the one who gifted her. Things went on. She kept staring at me, smiling. I think her smile did it. I don't know why I am so bad at picking hints. Or why aren't they a little straightforward, rather than expecting guys to be a mind reader. She used look at me. I looked at her, and she knew. Not anything specific, but we both felt it. I started liking her. She started noticing me. I didn't even exist for her before that. It was just like you fall asleep slowly but all at once. Things went on. At other times I used to look at couples in my school. I didn't felt anything for them. They seemed pretty boring to me. But when you're excited about a girl and you see a couple holding hands, and you feel so happy for them. And you know they are happy too. She wasn't the most pretty or hottest girl in class. Her friends were quite hot though, but she was rather beautiful. Everything around me felt good. I started loving everything. It was the first time I felt I looked good. You know, when you look in the mirror, you don't see a sob story anymore. Every day was good hair day. I started participating in life and stopped filling my mind with useless thoughts. Sometimes people use thought to not participate in life. And now I know how dumb and stupid I was. That was the first time I felt how being obsessed for something felt. It wasn't head over heels thing. It wasn't like in movies you felt dying for someone is a great idea. It was plain and beautiful feeling toward her. She found many different ways to spend more time with me. I just wanted to talk to her and feel someone was listening to me. I never thought of doing those cheesy thing young kids do, holding hands, engraving their initials with a heart on desks. This reminds me of something, how someone can engrave their names on trees and wall, unless they came on date with a knife or something sharp. It's weird. But sadly all those things started dying slowly. We passed our 8th and went on to next class. All the students were shuffled. She went to different section than mine. And that was the end of my puppy love. And things were back to normal, except I learned so many things. That was the first time I got in touch with music. It was not because of her though. That experience just made me try new things. Songs never stuck a chord inside me like they were supposed to before that. I started with listening to Linkin Park and Rage Against the Machine. I could connect to those lyrics, and those weren't even love songs. I felt what the artist wants to share, what all those songs meant. And I thought how many people have loved those songs, and how many had great time listening to those songs. I wish I would write a song like that someday just to know how it feels to make so many people happy. That was the first experience of liking a girl. Though I don't even remember how she looked or where she is now. Now I remember I didn't even loved her like young me used to think. I just loved feeling for the first time that I belonged somewhere. It was just experiencing something for the very first time. The joy of life comes from our encounters with new experiences. And hence there is no greater joy than to have an endlessly changing horizon. That's why I love first times. I want my whole life to be composed of them, though I didn't learn most of these things because of that experience in my early teen years, but because of all those experiences that happened last summer, due to which I was able to recall all that account of Secret Santa, because of which I was able to write these things down and think clearly. I read somewhere how important it is in life not necessarily to be loved, but to feel loved, and I love yourself. After previous summer, I found a new self inside me that I don't hate. I think maybe part of what got me into trouble was that I did too much thinking. Sometimes I tried too hard to make sense of the world, to figure out why people were bad to each other so often. I made a radical change in my lifestyle and begin to boldly do things which I may previously never have thought of doing. People who try to control situations all the time are afraid that if they don't, nothing will work out the way they want. Living in present and doing my best. I stopped being concise about my life and started drifting away like a feather to wherever the wind may take me.
Interesting stories related to your work. In a very busy restaurant on a Saturday night, I forgot to ring up a customer's second glass of wine. Sometimes drinks can take up to 15 minutes to come out when we are slammed, and after he told me the second time, it was taking a while to come up. This table had already had apps, a round of drinks, and were waiting on entrees. The long wait time on the glass of wine set the customer off. He was going up to the bar screaming about the wine and yelled in my face about it. Their entrees were taking a long time as well. They had ordered a lasagna that has a very long cook time, after demanding that their food be served now to me, screaming about the long wait time. The wife of the man was following me around as I was serving food to other tables and got in my face asking and demanding again as to where the entrees were, as I had hot plates of other people's food balanced in my hands. I was begging the expo to get their food out, and as I was finally walking to the table with it, this couple was kneeling in their booth to make themselves taller and waving their arms to make big excess with their forearms to me. They refused the entrees because they had taken so long, screamed at me again and at my manager, and left in a huff without eating. The entitlement and audacity of senior citizens to throw a tantrum and have no ability to read the room and see that literally every table was full, and therefore things take time was astounding. I will always remember their bratty shitty behavior. I had a group of older guests in for lunch. One man vomited the entire way through the restaurant, from table to toilet, and then all over the bathroom. Another gent came and told me, and said he's old and has dementia. I was like, okay, I guess, and cleaned it all up. I did sympathize at first. This man then proceeded to eat lunch, have a glass of wine, and then do it again. I was so upset. I cleaned it all up again, and the friend who I'd spoken with the first time made a joke to me about it. Kind of like, what are you gonna do? I just replied, this isn't really appropriate for a restaurant. So fucking disgusting. Go home. I worked at a bar that had its own docks on a lake, so people who owned and lived on boats would pay to dock and live there, usually during the summer. There are a myriad of problems with this, but the main one was that since they lived there, they never drove, so the technicalities included these guys being at the bar and being able to drink a majority of the day without getting cut off. So we would watch them wake up around 11-ish a.m., stroll over the docks, come up to the patio, and hop on a bar stool until about 7 to 8 p.m. There was one guy who just took total advantage of this and would sit at a stool, get so drunk he would piss his jorts, then demand hugs from the wait staff. Deplorable. Another time, mid-COVID, I had a customer straight up, just openly sneeze on my arm as I was setting a plate down on their table. I was absolutely horrified at the blatant biological situation she just assaulted me with. I went to the dish pit and scalded my arm good with that hot dish water. People are nasty. I was the chef in a care home. We had a new resident that apparently had the habit of wandering off into quiet hallways and aggressively masturbating. Never saw it, but the mental image was enough to ensure I never shook his hand-nauseated face. One particular afternoon, I went to leave the kitchen and saw him stood by the hot locker, with what looked like a jacket potato on top. In the 5 seconds it took my brain to register that I'd made fish cakes for lunch, the smell hit. I immediately went back into the kitchen, forbade my kitchen assistant to leave, and had to rush out to inform someone. That someone was the big, scary financial director, and one of the owners. I was desperately trying to inform him of the situation, but as I have Tourette's, I was really struggling to get my words out. I ended up yelling at the top of my lungs, "Colin shat in my hot box." To his credit, he leapt into action and raced off to address the situation. I quickly told my kitchen assistant what was going on, which she replied, "Oh, I was just going to go off and have my break." Rude. This was the moment that the hilarity of the situation hit, and I was hanging onto my prep table to keep me upright. Gave myself a full-blown asthma attack, had tears running down my face, and all I could hear was panicked voices and gagging sounds from the other side of my kitchen door. After half an hour, Big Scary Boss came into the kitchen, wearing a set of 2 small scrubs, and told me that they'd all heard me losing it for the entire time they were chasing an octogenarian around the dining room, whilst he was apparently reaching around and scooping more shit, throwing it at them. Apparently his aim was extremely accurate, hence the scrubs, and then angrily masturbating with shitty hands. I was crying laughing, amazed that I hadn't wet myself and wheezing for breath. Big Boss then informed me that if this resident did it again, I'd be doing the cleanup. That set me off even more, especially when I pointed out that I can't go anywhere near bodily fluids in my chef whites. Big Boss looked unimpressed, then muttered, "Oh, bollocks, I'm too old for this shit," to which I instantly replied, "That's not what he said. Guys who did something stupid for a girl, what did you do?" A girl was leading me on, but also being obvious about it. I was stupidly believing I could change her ways and get her to actually date me. She had revealed she always wanted a giant teddy bear. So for her birthday/Valentine's Day, I bought a giant bear costume from Amazon and like 90 roses. The idea was one for every day I had known her. Creepy and cringy AF looking back. Anyhow, she called me drunk the night before and screamed mean shit at me, and I finally broke down and told myself she was a shitty person because she always was terrible to me, and I let myself think I could change that because I was desperate to not be alone. In the end, I created a sign that said "Free Bear Hugs and Roses for Valentine's" and wore the bear suit onto our college campus on Valentine's Day to give away all the roses. It made so many people happy that it was one of the best things I've ever done. So many hugs and girls were crying because they didn't have to feel so alone on a shitty commercialized holiday. It was cool. Plus the football players all took a flower and hugged me, which was surprisingly wholesome. Do I have to pick just one thing? High school. I had a good job where I could work 40 hours a week and go to school. So I had a stupid amount of money and parents who, for some reason, didn't pay any attention to what I was doing with it. As a senior, I was dating a sophomore, and her mom told her, "It's not your prom, so I'm not paying for a dress and everything." I ended up spending well over $1,500 on dress, and hair, and makeup, and shoes, and manicure, and a photo shoot, and a custom-made blue topaz pendant with a massive stone I handpicked to perfectly match the dress she would be wearing. Last time I saw that stone, it was on a chain around her best friend's neck after we broke up. College. Girlfriend of several months called me up and was sobbing incoherently. All I could make out between the gulps of breath and wailing was "died." Her grandmother was not well, and she and I would go visit her from time to time, so I assumed it was her grandmother that died. I threw my Xbox controller mid-game at my roommate, leapt to my feet, and said, "Hey man, I have to go." Once I arrived at her apartment and calmed her down, I managed to ascertain that it was not her grandmother who had died, but her goldfish. She said she wanted to have a funeral for her fish. I was annoyed, but determined to compassionately help her cope, because obviously that goldfish mattered to her. I recommended she go get cleaned up and take a hot shower to relax, and while she was in there I called up a couple of my friends, and some of her girlfriends. I had a buddy of mine go to the park at the small campus lake and dig a fish grave. I had her girlfriends take her out to lunch. Then I got the floating carcass out of the bowl, wrapped it in toilet paper, and placed it in a jewelry box coffin. We went and had a full fish funeral with music and people speaking, and Psalm 23 by the lake. Afterward, when we were back at her apartment, she said, "I don't know why you did that. We should have just flushed it." We broke up a few weeks later. TLDR, I was an idiot who made underappreciated grand gestures. Edit my first silver. Thanks, kind stranger. I'll use it to buy a life insurance policy on my kid's first goldfish. Edit 2. My wife is going to be thrilled that my first Reddit gold was a story about ex-girlfriends. Now I have to go figure out how gold works, lol. Edit 3. There's some vitriol in the comments toward the bereaved fish owner. This was 15 years ago. Most of us are cringy and foolish at times when we're younger. She's a perfectly delightful person, just not the person for me. Be kind. Beaming face with smiling eyes. I met a girl and fell head over heels for her. She lived in another state. Nevertheless, we started a long-distance relationship. Coincidentally, she had just lost her job, so I sent her money every week, almost my entire check, and I drove out to see her every chance I got. That autumn, I found out she had a boyfriend and was just using me to pay her rent. I was at work when I found out and just left. I had to confront her about deceiving me. I drove 3 hours to her house, and by the time I got there, I knew it didn't matter. She wasn't the person I thought she was. I gave her everything I had for nothing in return. Instead of being mad or saying something that would win her back, I told her that she's a horrible person for lying to me, that I hope someday someone hurts her as much as she did me. The next day, I went back to my job to see if I could get my last paycheck. My boss took me into his office and laid into me about being irresponsible and failing the company. While I was sitting there, I could barely hear him as all I could think about was how stupid I was, and suddenly, I started crying. I mean torrents of tears, ugly cry. I must have bawled for a good 10 minutes. My boss stopped berating me and silently waited for me to get control of myself. Then, in a very sympathetic tone, he told me it's okay. I was in love like that once. We all do stupid things in the name of love. Try to learn from this. It may seem like the world is ending, but it's not. You'll be okay. Then he sent me back to work stating that we never have to talk about it again. He was a good boss and a great guy. Edit a word. Edit 2, wow. My first gold. Thank you, kind strangers. I'm really surprised by the responses. Thanks for the encouragement and kindness. And to those of you who share similar experiences, I hope you have learned, as I have, that you are not alone. If your heart was broken, it will heal. To quote a friend, you'll be okay. I will try to answer some questions here. This happened almost 30 years ago. I had just graduated from high school. She was older than me by several years. We met through a friend I worked with. He found out what she was doing and told me at work. Probably not good timing. I freaked and just walked out. When I went back to work the next day, I was just planning to ask if I could be paid for the hours that I had completed that week. This was back before direct deposit was a thing. I no longer work at the company. The boss eventually retired and sold it. I gave her money because I was young and stupid. She weaved tales of woe, and I was all too happy to be the hero and save her. I sent the money via Western Union. Fun fact, if you send a lot of money through WU, they will automatically make you a gold member. So I got that going for me, which is nice. There were a lot of red flags that I ignored. The most glaring was that she lied. She lied to everyone. And here was my dumb ass thinking, she wouldn't lie to me. It was my first time being in love. I had girlfriends in high school, but I had never felt like I was in love with them. So I had no idea that someone could use that against me. My boss ended up being like a father figure to me. Gave me a lot of advice and guidance. I am now married to the love of my life. I am now a manager, and I try to emulate some of my former boss' great qualities with the people who work for me.